You've seen it, right? That giant iceberg chart that claims to be a map of the internet. It looks super dramatic, maybe even a little bit scary, and man, is it popular. But today, we're going to take that map and just pull it apart piece by piece. It's time to separate what's actually real from what's just become a massive internet myth. So let's just start with the big question that's going to frame our whole conversation here. What if that famous iceberg, the one with all those spooky-sounding layers at the bottom, is actually more fiction than fact? Well, let's dive in and find out what the web really looks like. All right, so we'll begin right at the top, in the part of the web we all know and use every single day. This is the surface web. And just like the metaphor says, this really is just the visible tip. So what makes something surface web? Well, it all boils down to one simple thing. It's indexable. That just means if you can find it on Google or Bing or any other standard search engine, boom, you're on the surface web. It's the public, easy-to-find part of the internet. Just think about what you do online every day. You're reading the news, you're looking at a company's website, you're reading a public blog, or scrolling through a public social media feed. Yep, that's all the surface web. It's basically the storefront of the internet. And this is where it gets wild. Look at this breakdown. For as much time as we spend there, the surface web makes up less than 5% of the entire World Wide Web. That means over 95% of the web is completely hidden from search engines. And you can see right away why that iceberg metaphor became so popular. Okay, so let's dip below the waterline and see what we find. We're now going into that other 95%, starting with the deep web. And listen, let's get this out of the way right now. The name sounds super mysterious, but what it's used for is, well, it's mostly pretty boring. So what does deep web actually mean? It's way simpler than you think. It's just all the stuff online that search engines can't get to or are told not to look at. It's not because the content is sinister or anything, it's just because it's behind a password or a paywall or just isn't meant for everybody to see. And get this, you use the deep web constantly, every single day. That email inbox you live in, that's the deep web. Your online banking portal, yep, deep web. Even the page where you change your Netflix password is part of the deep web. And that's a good thing. You don't want Google to be able to search inside your private accounts. So if you take away one single thing about this layer, let it be this. Deep is a technical term, not a scary one. It just means it's not on a public search engine. It's the part of the web for our private data, not a web of crime. All right, now we get to the one with the biggest, baddest reputation, the dark web. Now, it's really important to understand this isn't some whole other ocean. It's a very, very small and very specific part of the deep web, and it was built for one specific reason. So what makes it dark? Two things, really. First, you can't just use your regular browser to get there. You need special software, like Tor. And second, its entire structure, the whole point of it, is to provide total anonymity for its users by hiding who they are and where they are. Now, because of that anonymity, you get two totally different sides of the coin. On the one hand, it's an absolutely vital tool for journalists, activists, and whistleblowers who are living in oppressive countries. But on the other hand, that exact same anonymity is, of course, used for illegal marketplaces and criminal forums. It's a tool, and like any powerful tool, it could be used for good and for bad. Okay, let's just put it all side by side. This makes it super clear. Surface web, public info, indexed by Google, use your normal browser. Deep web, private data, not indexed, but you still use your normal browser. And the dark web, not indexed, needs special software, and its whole reason for existing is anonymity. Remember these three, because honestly, they're the only layers that are actually real. So, what about all those other layers? The ones you see way down at the bottom of the scary iceberg charts? Well, this is where we say goodbye to technical reality and hello to the world of internet folklore. You've probably heard the names whispered in forums or YouTube videos, Mariana's web, the charter web, the fog, virus soup. I mean, they sound incredibly ominous and intriguing, right? And they have definitely fueled a ton of online stories. But the reality, it's much, much simpler. These are basically digital campfire stories. They're what the internet calls creepypasta, which is just a fun name for online horror fiction. From a computer science and networking point of view, there is zero, and I mean zero evidence that these layers actually exist. So let's just knock these down, one by one. Mariana's web, it's a fictional concept from a story. The charter web, no verifiable evidence it's real. The fog, or some kind of hidden global AI at the bottom of the ocean, pure fiction,
born from online forums. These are not real places on the internet you can visit.
So, if that crazy, multi-layered iceberg is a myth, what's a more accurate way to actually think about the internet? Let's try to build a better, more functional map. The real model is actually way cleaner, and it looks something like this. You start with the public surface web. That connects to the absolutely massive deep web, which is all the private stuff. Then, tucked away in a tiny corner of that deep web, you have the anonymous dark web. And then totally separate from all of that, you have private networks, like for the military or big corporations, that aren't even connected to the public internet at all. And this brings us to what might be the most important point of this whole thing. Worrying about some mythical place called Mariana's Web is a total distraction. The real dangers you face online are the boring ones you see every day on the surface and deep web. Phishing scams, malware, misinformation. Being smart online is way more important than being afraid of phantom layers. So we'll end with a question for you to think about. Now that you know the real map of the web, not the spooky fictional one, how does that change the way you see it all? What does it really mean to be a smart, safe navigator in this massive digital world we all live in?